Welcome to my review of Sewer Shark for the 3DO and Sega CD. And this was a game I owned on the Sega CD back in the early 90s when it came out. And at the time, full motion video was a completely new thing, so the whole concept of being able to interact with video footage was pretty fucking crazy at the time, coming off of the Sega Genesis. Though, it was very gimmicky, and a lot of games, would show video footage, but you didn't have a lot of interaction with it. And I thought this was one of the better ones for this type of game because, you actually got to shoot the shit on screen and it does react to your bullets, as you can see here. So that was pretty fucking impressive at the time to be able to see that, coming off the Genesis with sprites and shit like that, and then actually interacting with the video was pretty fucking cool. Though even though the gameplay was always, barely above mediocre, it was still a very impressive and immersive experience at the time, and I actually really enjoyed the game back then. Of course, now it's not going to age the same, and it's not going to hit in the same way, because a lot of the reason it was so impressive was because of the technology, which now doesn't look like much. But at the time, this was a big deal, especially coming off a game like Night Trap, which was the first game I got for Sega CD, which had very limited interaction, where you're basically just switching security cameras and activating traps that show the same footage each time. And it got very old quickly. So this was actually, I think one of the better FMV games. Taking the limitations into account that it is still an FMV game. But, the game, really, the way it works is you pretty much have these 10-minute stretches. And each 10 minutes or so, you'll get a new checkpoint, which means you have unlimited continues to start from that checkpoint. But there are no lives. It's just if you die, you got to go back to the checkpoint. So you got to survive for about 10 minutes. Give or take. I mean, just a rough estimate because I haven't played in a while, but maybe 10 minutes between checkpoints, and the game is maybe about 40 minutes long. Every 10 minutes or so, you'll go up to another rank if you've shot enough enemies. So you have to get a certain score, a certain kill count, and then by doing so, you'll go up a rank, and that means that you pass the section. So you'll be allowed to go to the next checkpoint. And you'll get a new ranking like Beach Bum or something like that. And that's pretty much it. You want to manage your energy. So if you shoot too much, you'll drain your energy faster. And you want to make sure to turn into energy recharge stations whenever you see them. And that was something I missed when I was younger. Even though the manual did mention it, I didn't know how to turn into them for a very long time. And it made the game unbeatable. So you do need to know how to do that. And I'm considering making a tutorial on this game. I didn't have a mic when I beat the 3DO version in 2017, so I wasn't doing commentaries at that point. So this was my second time beating the game. This is the 3DO footage. I originally beat it on the Sega CD. So aside from keeping your energy, charged by going into the charge stations, not firing if you don't need too much to try to conserve some of your energy, you want to try to shoot as much shit as you can, and obviously, if your ship gets attacked, you take damage, so you have to try to kill the ship before it jumps at your ship. So you basically have to manage all that. Occasionally you'll shoot a flare, which is a rare event where you have to shoot this flare out. But aside from that, you're going to see these same tubes for the entire game, pretty much. It's pretty much this footage for the entire game. I don't even know if there's any variation in how the tubes look. I feel like it's a short clip that probably keeps replaying, but you can't really tell because the tubes all look so similar, I'm assuming there's not a lot of unique graphics with this, you know what I mean? But I didn't really, when I played recently and when I played in the past, I didn't really notice because it was a clever design with just making it into one big fucking tube, you know what I mean? It's like you're not really going to be able to see the little nuances. If it's a different area, you're not going to really be able to tell too easily, so it does make it feel like you're constantly moving through this tube, or this network of tubes, which was a cool idea. So in between, you get these cutscenes, and either you'll get like a negative kind of like comment where the narrator will berate you and you'll fail, and then you'll have to go back to your previous checkpoint, or you'll have killed enough shit to succeed, and then you'll get a positive message of encouragement, and then you'll get your rank. You'll get the next rank, and then you'll be at the next checkpoint. So you do this maybe 3 or 4 times if I have to estimate, because it's been a while. And, on the last run is when you beat the game. and that's the hardest part because you got to fight these new type of enemy that look like kind of like viruses, you know, and you have to shoot them in time, and they're very aggressive, so that can be tricky, and they'll drain your energy very fast. So that's the most challenging part of the game, and it is cool, but you know, it's like the game is not the most precise with the reticle and the hit detection and all that kind of shit. You know what I mean? It's not a real sharp game, but you know, I mean, the control works well enough, and the hit detection works well enough. It's just don't expect the game to be super precise. Really, the gameplay, you know, is maybe a little bit above mediocre. You know, I think it's decent gameplay wise, even though it is repetitive and there's not a hell of a lot to it. But you do have to actually do well when it comes to, you know, shooting shit and clearing it out. And there's definitely a few positions in which the enemies can appear. So there's a decent little variety, but it does repeat a lot of the very similar enemy positionings and things again and again. So you will get used to the layout of the game pretty fast. Aside from everything I mentioned, you have to control your steering. And now if you don't go down the wrong tubes, you'll usually crash into a wall at some point and just die. And then you have to restart back at the next checkpoint. So you do have to follow the directions that the narrator gives you. And I think there are certain things on the screen that light up to kind of indicate what the directions were. I don't know that you have to memorize them each time. I don't remember if I had to memorize them when I was playing because it's been a little while. But the idea is you'll get directions such as 9, 6, 12, 3, and those are based on the directions of a clock. So that's the way you got to turn. It's a little bit of a weird way to give directions. These are the final enemies of the game, and they only appear at the very end of the game from what I remember. And you have to clear out all these guys and try not to die. They do take tons of health out of you when they hit you, like probably 2,000 or something out of your energy. So, you know, you got to try to scrape through this, and it can be pretty tough. It's definitely a challenging section. But that's the main challenge of the game. Though the game can be very difficult, obviously, if you don't know what the fuck is going on. If you don't realize that you got to follow the directions and make the turns, you got to do that. Otherwise, the game won't kill you right away. It does kind of a slow death thing where you think you're doing well, and then all of a sudden you just crash into a fucking wall, you know, several minutes later. So they'll fuck you over. You might think you got away with it, but you got to pay attention to the turns. But overall, I thought it was a really unique idea. I really liked the implementation of the FMV for this game. I thought it worked really well for this kind of game. But I would give the game a 6 out of 10. Like, I think it's slightly above mediocre as far as the game. You know, to me, it's more meaningful. I actually like the game quite a bit. But it's not one I would replay a lot or anything. But I do like it because of the nostalgia, and I kind of like the concept of it. But if I break it down to the core gameplay and stuff like that, you know, it's at best maybe a 6 out of 10. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.